money, though important,
Mm.
is not the most important thing in the family, because there are intangibles
Yeah.
that come with her being a working stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
Your children get to have certain values imbued directly from you. There's what you've agreed in terms of the legacy you want to leave in those children.
Yeah.
Because what matters most is not what you give to your children, it's what you live in your children.
Hello and welcome again to another episode of Working Moms. And just a quick reminder that here we only do one thing, which is storytell, with one mission, that is to empower women, working women, whether in corporate or in businesses or at home, to be themselves and to be powerhouses for themselves and their families through the art of storytelling. And today I am more than privileged and humbled to have a guest here who I can tell will be giving so many nuggets of wisdom from his heart. And because he asked God for permission to share it, I can already tell it's going to be empowered. So, hi.
Hi, Lucy. Very well. With that kind of an introduction, I'm even wondering what we're going to say after this. Anyway, thank you for that. That was really kind of you.
Thank you for coming. After two, not failed, but two postponed trials, we are finally here.
It's okay. This was the appointed time.
This was the appointed time.
Everything happens for a reason.
It's true.
So today was the best day to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So introduce yourself to the guest, who you are, what you do, when you're banani, all those things.
I am Karanu Bushiri.
Yes.
I am a public servant, which I take that to be a high privilege to be of service to the nation.
Yeah.
I am a husband to one wife and a father to 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls.
Oh.
So that is me in a nutshell.
In a nutshell, how old are they?
My first is 8. He's my son.
Yeah.
My second is turning 6 just this month.
Oh.
And my third just turned 3.
Nice.
So my first one is a boy, and the other 2 are girls.
Girls.
Yes.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Cool. So the second question, which is where I hoped we spend a little bit of time, is to the point of this podcast. Are you married to a working mom? Are you married to a working mom? If not, what does she do, and how does that look like for your family setup?
So yes, I am married to a working mother.
Yes.
She is a stay-at-home mom. She chose to stay home and raise our 3 children when they came, and it was a very deliberate decision on her part.
Yeah.
What I would say is that that's not a conversation we had before we got married. So I expected her that when we got married, she would continue with her career. But when we did, she was clear that she's going to stay home and raise children.
Yeah.
It's a decision I'm really grateful for now.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
But at the time when it started off, it wasn't the easiest thing to do. Simply because I thought she had so much to offer. And, with more gender sensitivity forums, it actually brought to light the fact that a stay-at-home mom is a working mother.
Yeah.
And that is something I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah.
So yes, I am married to a working mom in a nutshell. I would say that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was it a struggle at the beginning? And you said it's not a conversation you had before you got married.
Yeah.
If you went back, was it a conversation you'd have had? And do you think it could have resulted in different ways?
The one thing we take for granted is you assume your wife shall have certain traits like your mom.
True.
So growing up, my mom, used to go to the office, and I didn't know that embedded in me at the time was that a woman should go to the office.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were in the process of getting married, dating, courting, all that jazz.
You assumed,
In my mind, it was just a natural assumption. So it never crossed my mind that this is a conversation too.
You should have,
And then now we settle, and then we have our children. Actually, we had our son before.
Yeah.
But she's clear that the most important work for her is what she pours into these
children. Yeah.
And that was a bit contentious at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Though what I like about my wife is that she's very decisive. Once she's decided, she's decided. It's not confrontational.
Yeah.
It's just This is what I've decided, babe. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is best for us.
Mm.
And I tried to get her to go to the office once or twice,
Yeah.
thrice, but she was clear enough.
Yeah.
Babe, I'm going to raise our children.
Mm.
Looking back, is it a conversation we should have had? Probably.
Yeah.
Would it have changed how we went about it?
Probably. Yeah.
But they say the best things in life are the things that are unexpected. So that was one of the best things that happened.
Yeah.
And it was unexpected. Yeah.
How did that look like? You not understanding, but coming from this notion that the woman should go to the office or at least work,
Yeah.
quote unquote. How did that look like? When we come to your home, what does that look like? Is it sitting down and like, this is why I think you should go to the office? Versus no, this is why I think I should be staying here. And then we come across again next week and then next month. And then how did that look like? Did it take a long period? Did you have to speak to someone or you just go to an understanding by yourselves? Because it's a hard decision.
It's hard and easy at the same time.
Okay.
Because although I had that template for my mom, one of my siblings also chose to be a stay-at-home mom, and she actually homeschooled her children. And so I also saw the flip side of that.
Okay.
The investment in children, because when I look at my nieces, my sister's daughters, they are all fantastic. And I've told her that so many times. So having seen what my sister did made the transition
so much easier.
Yeah. So it didn't have to be a long, contentious conversation.
Okay.
It's just that, as a man, the truth is that the template in your head is that of your mother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's just what it is.
And vice versa. For women, we look for our dads or avoid our dads.
Exactly. Because as a parent, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're living a legacy.
It's true.
So what you want to do is leave a worthwhile legacy with your children.
Yeah.
So given what I had seen with my mother, but also what I had seen with my sister, and now that her children are grown, I was able to see the decision that my wife is making. And my wife didn't make it because my sister made it. It's just an individual decision.
Yes, for sure.
So that conversation wasn't too long.
Okay.
We didn't have to have too much of a back and forth. It's just eventually was like, okay, babe, this is what you want. I'll support you.
Yeah.
And let's keep it moving from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to ask this because for myself, I'm putting myself in that situation. And I'm like, if I decided I was going to be a stay-at-home mom, what would finances look like? Or is it now you determine this is what you've decided? Because somehow it means it's a one income household. Yes. And of course, with that has its own, because they say these days, diversify and do all those things. So did that worry? Did it cause a cause of concern? Or it was, we'll downgrade if we need to, but this is how we're going to move.
Well, of course, it was a concern.
Yeah.
Becoming a one-income household, because now we are working with a finite budget, and it's not the advantage of two incomes coming together. And at the time, our children were really young, so we can't even say that you can engage in this particular enterprise to bring in more income. So what that meant for me was having to work at the institution, but also looking for enterprise at the same time.
Yeah.
So the demands of my time were insane. What I do thank my wife for is that she was understanding.
Yeah.
We didn't have that conversation again.
Yeah.
And looking back, there are things you need to have talked about, because your spouse can feel lonely. So in your head, you're thinking, I need to do this. We have children to raise. We have bills to pay.
Yeah.
We have retirement to plan for. We have our whole lives ahead of us.
Yeah.
And all of these are a function of the incomes you have, because what money does is that it gives you options, and there's certain options that I wanted to have. So it did put a pressure on us. But my wife understood that I couldn't be at home as often
as
before, or as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
And maybe possibly part of the reason I also wanted her to work, now that I think about it, is I wanted us to have the options of two incomes in one household, so that we could give ourselves and our children the life
many
that
options
we would want to have.
Yeah.
But again, I would say money, though important, is not the most important thing in the family, because there are intangibles that come with her being a working stay-at-home mother.
Yeah.
your children get to have certain values imbued directly from you. There's what you've agreed in terms of the legacy you want to leave in those children.
Yeah.
Because what matters most is not what you give to your children, it's what you live in your children.
Yeah.
So it's agreeing that this is what we want to have them in these particular stages. And I'd say the biggest blessing that has come out of that is that we get to see them grow together.
Yeah.
So we're not being informed, this is what happened this time.
To that point, and there's a guest who actually said, because he was also in between transition from, they were having conversation with the wife because the wife used to go to the office.
Yeah.
Now they were having that conversation of possibility of her being a working stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
And one of the things he was saying that really were convincing them this is the right thing is when she chooses to stay at home, maybe a full day or 2 days, they pick so many things they didn't know about their children.
Yes.
That could have just gone missing if somebody was not at home. Yeah. So that was like a big, pro for her to be at home, because she could see the things she's speaking about her children, learning about her children, but simply just being at home. So I really like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's just the intangibles that are there. So to speak to what you're intending, yes, is there concern of being a single household income? Yes, those conversations are there. And I would advise people to have them. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have it, and it had its own strengths.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best decisions we ever made.
You've made.
Yeah.
Okay. And to that point, because again, putting myself in the shoes of your family, it would take a lot of trust for me to be a working at home mom, because I'm leaving entirely our financial decisions or situation in the man's hands or in this sole income. So what do you think that could have attributed as a role of a husband to your wife to give her the comfort that you can be at home and take care of our children, and I will be out here and I'll bring the money that we need or the income that we need to make sure that our family has options or is able to sustain our life? So what do you think is, I think the question is, what do you think is the role of a husband in a family unit?
Actually, I take the questions separately, because it's about money and then dependence.
Yes.
You see, the thing is, for us, it's not her money or my money.
Yeah.
It's our money. So although I am the channel through which this money is coming,
it's yours.
It's ours. So it's not, oh, babe, I need X amount of money from you, then I have to go and get it. So we have separate accounts. And I know most people advocate for joint.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
But what happens is that she has access to my accounts, and I have access to her accounts. For me, it's just simply from a risk perspective.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking, should anything ever happen to me, God forbid, I don't want to leave her in a situation where she's financially destitute. So if she has access to her accounts at any one particular point, while she's managing maybe a state of succession, she still has access to finances. So that's why for me, I thought it would be prudent to have separate accounts. But that notwithstanding, she knows all the accounts I have. She knows the pins to them. She's a signatory to, well, we do have one joint account, and the mandate is signature either or.
Yeah.
Okay. But also for my personal accounts, she knows where they rest, and the pins and the banker, everything that is necessary.
Yeah.
So should the joint account not have sufficient funds, or we've exhausted the purpose for which it was meant to have, she can access my accounts. Or in a situation where maybe I'm the one who needs money, I can access her accounts. But it's always a conversation.
Yeah.
Because with money, and I wouldn't say that this is how we started out.
You grew into that,
We grew into that. There are those people who they start off like that, and great for them.
They're blessed,
For us, it's been a work in progress, but I'm happy we're here now.
Yeah.
But I would advocate for that. For me, I would say separate accounts, maybe one joint account, just to hedge your risks.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. So looking back at it, it wasn't all I'm dependent on you, babe, or it's you to decide how much money I get. No, here's the pool. Then here are our responsibilities.
Yeah.
So can we execute our responsibilities based on what is in the pool?
Yeah.
And then maybe, and I know this is not a finance class, but we do have and accounted for spending.
Mm.
So we call it guilt-free spending. So there's a certain amount of money.
I'm gonna have one like that.
A certain amount we each get.
Yeah.
And
For you, just you.
Just you. You can do whatever you want to do with it.
That's on you.
Yeah. And I can do whatever I want to do with mine.
Oh, lovely.
And
Lovely.
it doesn't have to be a consent.
Yeah.
Simply, there's just that
Yeah,
one.
of course. Yeah. But to that point, what I meant by not really permission or that becomes that you were saying how much you're spending, but in the terms of trust that you will go out there, you'll not be lazy, you'll not be fired for maybe not being competent, because as much as you will bring to the pool, it's mostly on you to bring it to the pool. It's the hard work you put, it's the diligence, it's all those things, the opportunities you're looking out for. That's what I meant by fully trusting that this is the person who's bringing the income.
Yes.
I think I would struggle. But again, I think also it's the comfort or the relationship that you have with the person that gives you that comfort to be okay with the decision that you're making.
Also, to speak to that, marriage has seasons.
Yeah.
So yes, we did start out with, being a single income household.
Yeah.
And I know we haven't got into this part of the story, but, over time we've also evolved and she's gotten back into enterprise and she's brought in income.
Yeah.
And there are seasons where I genuinely don't have it. Yes, I work. Yes, I do.
It's knowing their seasons.
It's knowing their seasons. So there are times she's the one who's brought more to the bread basket than I have.
Yeah.
But if in the season where I was the one bringing more to the bread basket, I was maybe not kind or I was not considerate, how would she have taken it when it was her season to be the one to bring into the bread basket?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So I understand that can be a struggle. And it is an issue of high trust.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a high trust environment, it's not easy to trust that this is the person on whom we need to ensure that all our needs are met through. So seasons. Because there are seasons, I can tell you for free, my wife has carried us through. Yeah.
It's lovely to hear that. There's a guest who also told me the same. So okay, good. So what are the roles of a husband in this context? Yeah.
Wow.
We could spend a day.
We could spend a day on that question.
Yeah.
I wouldn't so much focus on the role of a husband first, because if we don't first deal with the man, how then do we deal with the husband?
Lovely.
So if
it's a boy, man, husband.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to go through the stages of becoming a man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, and also to understand the man, I normally say, look at his father. And if you have the privilege of even seeing the grandfather, look at the grandfather. Because it is the boy becomes the man that raises the son. Yeah. My father was once a boy. That boy grew up to become a man. And then now this man raised me. Yeah. And the cycle
continues. Yeah.
So I must look at my father in the context of how did he grow up? How was my grandfather? What are the things my grandfather passed on to this man called my father? Yeah. Then therefore now I can look at myself and see what did my father pass on to me. Yeah. And once I've had that conversation with me, then I can begin looking at what am I passing on to this household.
Young man or your children,
My children, but not even my children, my wife.
Yeah.
Because you see, family is complete at wife level.
Yeah.
So the day I married my wife,
you had a family.
That was a complete family. Yeah. No children involved, nothing.
Yeah.
Me and my wife, complete family.
Yeah.
Because you see, children are a bonus. And we must be cognizant not everybody has been blessed with that bonus. But now we're putting pressure on this couple to have children. Maybe that's
the bonus.
Yeah, to have the bonus. And maybe there are reasons why it can't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now there's all of this, maybe you're making them feel inadequate, incomplete. Yet as husband and wife,
they're already complete.
They're a complete family.
I love that. Yes.
So my wife and I are complete long before we had our kids.
Yeah.
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 So, but speaking to your point, which you raised earlier, the roles of a husband, I'd first say, what is the role of a man?
Yeah.
Long before we start looking at the role of a
Oh
husband.
God, I have so many. I have two questions, and I hope they don't delay us from getting to the question. But let's just talk about it.
Yes.
You said something very important that if you want to understand the man, look at his father, and maybe if we're possible or blessed enough, look at the grandmother. But also cognizant of the fact that these days the man or the father figure probably is not there, and they've had to be raised by their moms. Did you know in Kenya, 45% of families are brought up by single moms? 45%.
Okay.
It was astonishing to hear that. And then further to that, and I know you say it's not a finance lesson, but let me not make it also. But further to that, 32% of these homes, the wife take lesser than the husband or the fathers. And it was just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So to your question, most men nowadays, whether young or small, sometimes were brought up by their mothers or their grandmothers or their aunts.
Yeah.
So what would you look for in such a man? What does that mean? Or they had father figures who are uncles. What does that now look like?
Okay. You see now that brings up the issue of there's an absence.
Now you look at the absence, because the absence itself also informed who they became.
Exactly.
Okay, good answer. Good answer.
Because you see,
sad.
as a man, by your presence or your absence, you're
Still
having
an impact.
effect and an effect
To your
on
children.
your children.
True.
You see, either way, as a man, you shall leave a legacy.
True.
Either way.
Yeah.
The question
What
is
that legacy you leave?
whether it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah? Because you are leaving a legacy. Are you being deliberate about whether it's an intentional, worthwhile legacy?
Yeah.
So when I look at that boy who didn't have a father, what informed their absence? Is it death? Because, as a child, you don't process absence, you don't process death in the sense of, they died and they moved on. Yeah? For you, it's an absence. And to an extent, you can even feel abandoned. Yeah. Is it that the father is alive, but chose not to be in your
their
life?
lives? Yeah.
Okay. But there's a third type of absence we don't talk about.
Which one?
The one where it is true you're physically present,
but you're not present.
Exactly.
You're there, but you're not really
You're there, you're
present.
not there. So those ones we call them misfathering. Yeah. So you can be unfathered or misfathered.
It's triggering me already.
I'm so sorry. That was not my intention.
No. It's important. It's important. That's the reality. Yeah.
That's the reality. So when I look at this man, and now you see, we're in a society where now we're saying that we have absent fathers. But are we looking at the root cause? I'm not excusing them. What I'm doing is, can we explain them? Because if this man, his father died at a young age, doesn't know what it means to be a man. Who showed him?
He doesn't.
What template did he have? He doesn't have a template.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
If he was misfathered, so you're expecting this man to have tools
That's what he knows.
that were not there. So we're not excusing this man. But
there's a big difference between understanding and excusing. Yeah.
But if we can understand this man and explain his circumstance, then now we can begin to equip him with the tools necessary for him to be an effective father.
Yeah.
Or even more importantly, an effective husband. Because you see, children, what gives them the greatest source of security is looking at how is mom and dad relating. So if you...
They observe.
They observe.
They learn by observing. Yeah.
Children don't do what you tell them to do. What you do.
They see.
But the biggest source of their security is how does dad treat mom?
Yeah.
But even the flip side, how does mom treat dad?
Yeah.
And they're looking at that constantly. So if you're good to them, but you're horrible to your spouse,
cancels out. Yeah.
It's a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you're good to the spouse, naturally, out of the overflow of that relationship, you're likely to be good.
To impact the children.
And impact them. So to speak to what you asked at the beginning of the question, that we have these men who were not raised by their fathers, and they are in single income households. Or maybe they've been raised by a single man. A single mom.
Mother,
sorry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that there's a deficiency in themselves. It's not their fault.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, because children, we tend to internalize the sins of our parents. I would say that it's not your fault if that's how you grew up.
Yeah.
but it is your responsibility to learn what that means. So seek out men. Yeah. Look for, if there's a man who is your peer mentor and you admire him and there's something you like about him, seek him out. If there's an older man that you admire and you're seeing that there are things you can learn from them or you can grow from them, seek them out, because now you're an adult.
Yeah.
It is your responsibility to grow into the man that you want to be.
That you're meant to be.
Because you see, ultimately, a man becomes a man in the company of other men.
True.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is my father that taught me what it means to be a man. So if I grow up without one, I don't have a template. So when you're busy telling him be a man, he's looking at you. What do you mean?
What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're holding him to a standard that he has no idea what it looks like. But this man, what you do for him is you push him. You get him to go to forums where there are men, but not only just men, but good men.
Good men. Yeah.
Because you become like your company.
It's true.
So if you
show me your friends,
show me your friends and I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
So if you push, or if he goes into a company that is not wholesome or healthy, he will become that. Yeah. But if he goes into a company that is wholesome, that is healthy, that builds him, he may not start off like that, but he shall definitely become that.
Yeah. Love it. Okay, so what are these things that your father and grandfather imposed in you to be a good husband? Or what are those nuggets now that make one a good husband? If we can quickly get into that. Are there things that or
to
is
get
relevant
to my father would require your next 15 episodes.
We have the time. Not today, but
not today. I was blessed to have a good man as a father. I mean, he was a good man. Shout out Dad.
Nice.
And if I can't condense everything that my dad taught me into this session. However, I can condense it to what he pointed me to. The person that taught me to read the Bible was my dad. And or just reading generally. Now, my dad was an avaricious reader. So was my mom, by the way. But my dad was very clear about reading. My dad was the type of father who, if it's books you want, there's no expense that is too high. Yeah. But one of the things he was clear about is what is going to be the philosophical basis of your life. And so he was big because philosophy tends to inform your thinking patterns and your behavior patterns.
Your beliefs,
So my father was like, if you're going to have any philosophical basis, I would prefer it is the Bible. Of course, he showed us, the Aristotles of this world, the Confucians of this world, but he was very clear that the philosophical basis has to be the Bible. So when I look at that book, there are 5 things that a man needs to be. There could be many, but I condense into 5. For me, my philosophical basis is 5. And this is drawn from Genesis chapter 1 and 2. And, we all read about it is not good for this man to be alone. But, when you read the Bible slowly, God is very deliberate about each word he uses in the Bible. So it was this man, not a man. Because if he said it's not good for a man to be alone, then it's all men. Okay? But when he says this man, he was specific.
There's something about that man that makes him worthy not to be alone.
Exactly. Actually, you spoke correctly. He said it is not good for the man.
The man,
You know the article that
means specific.
It's very deliberate. It's specific to this person.
It's not a.
It's not a. It's the. So when we look at Ish, because that was the name that was given. We all say Adam, but the name that was given was Ish. And Ish is a Hebrew derivative of the word husband. So it was actually husband from the word go. So it was not good for this husband to be alone. But what was he? So God created the Garden of Eden and he placed the man there. So Eden is the presence of God. So the first thing that a man needs is the presence of God.
The presence of God.
Because it is in the presence of God that you come into the fullness of who you are. Because he made you in his own image. So if you're not in his presence, then therefore how shall this person become the fullness of what it was meant to be.
Lovely.
The people who manufactured this book knew what number of pages they wanted to have, the colors, etc. All those good things.
Yeah.
So the first thing that a man needs is the presence of God.
And to that, actually, the example we've given, the person who made this mic, made it with a manual.
We made it with a manual.
Because he knows how it should work, and when something bad happens, how he should bring it back. So God made man. So God has the manual. So this man can only learn who he needs to be through the creator, through the person who has the manual.
Bingo. Yeah. You can even close on that. You can close on that.
I'm with you.
However, that was the first thing that the man needed.
Yeah.
The second thing that God gave man was work. Because he said that you shall tend to the garden. So because of this tending to the garden, that was work. So work did not come as a result of the falling of man. It was there before the falling of man.
Before the falling,
So you need to be in the presence of God, and you need to have work. And a work is not a job. It's not a job. Because people can fire you from a job, but they cannot fire you from a work. Because your work is tied to your gift.
To you, yeah.
So say, for example, you're a great communicator and you're a fantastic podcaster.
Yeah.
And right now you work in the banking industry. But that does not mean that you have to be tied to the banking industry. One day you could be working in pharmaceuticals or FMCG or manufacturing, whatever that may look like. But in each of those particular industries, you go with your gifting.
You do.
Because when you move from banking, yes, they've taken away your job, but they've not taken away your gifting. So you take your gift with you and your talents to the next industry that you go to. So as a man, it behooves you to find out what your gifting is, because that's your work. And then you work in service to that gift. Because when you serve the gift, then you come into the greatness of who you're meant to be. And even when you go to the good book, somewhere ahead in Proverbs, it says, have you seen a man of great skill or great gifting? He shall not serve before mere mortals. He shall serve before kings and men of great renown.
Oh, lovely.
So as you continue to serve this gifting of yours,
it elevates you.
It elevates you. So of course you have to invest in schooling, you have to invest in knowledge, because gifting is raw, but you have to develop it into a fine skill. Right? So you're in the presence of God, you found what your work is. Then the third thing a man needs to do is cultivate. Because so he was told to tend to the garden, he was told to look after it. So is this type of man that brings out the best out of his environment? Is he the type of man that looks to the good in that scenario? And you see, cultivation doesn't mean that I have toxic positivity, because there's this thing, people who never see anything wrong. Okay, that's not what I'm saying. It is the ability to look at what is the problem here and what is the solution. It's not just being a problem pointer, it is looking at a solution. So I can use this example because my wife is quite fit, but let's assume today she was not fit. And let's say maybe she's gained a few pounds here and there, and I know she likes having a certain type of body image. It's not to tell her, hey babe, you've gotten fat. And,
that would be the end of that sentence. Of everything else you ever say.
Exactly. It's to see, okay, babe, let's go to the gym. And we go together, and I pay for the membership, and we run and we do everything.
Quality time.
How do I bring out the best of this one? Of course, you have to bring it out the best of yourself. How do I bring out the best of myself? For me right now, I have a hidden six-pack.
It's there.
It's there.
For now.
It's just hidden for now. But how can I cultivate the type of body I want to see? And cultivation is in every scenario. In your workplace, do your colleagues find you to be a solution provider? Are you the type of person that elevates conversations? Are you the type of person that elevates your institution? Are you the type of person that elevates the relationships that you have? When people come to talk to me about, say, so we have a friend in common. And so our friend in common comes to talk to me about you. My first question should be, everything you told me, would you repeat it in front of me?
If they were here.
If they were here. If the answer is no, then I don't need to have this conversation with you. So I don't tolerate this. Correct? Or I give you the caveat that please know as you speak to me, I'm going to tell this person. And of course, all of that in wisdom, because maybe you're coming to talk to me because there's a problem and maybe we need to address it. So, of course, in wisdom, in wisdom, because it's not that everything that I'm told in confidence
you haven't going broadcast. Yeah, for sure.
But it's creating an environment, a high trust, high culture environment. Okay, so you have to be in God's presence, have your work, and be a person that cultivates environment. Okay, and then the man was told to protect the garden. So the fourth thing that a man needs to be is the type of man that protects the environments that he is in. Yeah. And you see, part of the reason that we're given a bigger body frame. Yeah. You know, God blessed me with a certain height advantage or a certain width advantage that is not common to the other gender.
The female,
That's why whenever you go to maybe sports, and I think it's sports that really comes out, when you look at the world record for the 100-meter sprint, the men tend to be ahead. Why? They have a different body mass, different frame. Women have a slower time. And it's just built. It's just biology. Okay? But I've not been given this body to abuse you. I've not been given this build to subjugate you or to domineer you. No, I've been given it to protect. So is this man the type of man that looks at how can I protect this environment that I'm in? If you have a family, how am I ensuring their financial security? And this is not to say that if you have turbulence in your finances that you're not being a protective man. It's just the season of life.
It's a season,
But am I the type of person that thinks, how can I ensure continuity of my family? Or how can I ensure my own continuity? Do I protect myself? Do I protect my mind? Do I protect my heart? Because even scripture says, guard your heart from the wellsprings of life. So what do I watch? What do I listen to? What company do I keep? Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so it's he. And as you said earlier, show me who your friends are.
Who you are, or who you're about to become.
So am I then cognizant of my social space? Am I protective of my social capital? So on and so forth. So that's the next thing that a man is to be, a protecting. And then the last thing that God did to this man was to give him his word. He says that out of the trees in the garden you may eat all of them except the tree of the knowledge, not life, of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life was there. That one you could eat.
Okay.
It was
the good and evil.
It's the knowledge of the tree of good and evil. And why? Because in the absence of choice, you can't have a relationship. You know, God, a robot will do exactly what I tell it to. I have to program it a certain way and give it certain commands, and then it has to respond to that. Okay. But the key difference between a robot and I, and I know AI is challenging that notion at the moment, it is the element of choice. In the absence of choice, God could not have a relationship with us. Okay? So there had to be a choice. This man had to make a choice day in, day out, not to eat of the garden, of the fruits of the knowledge of tree and evil. Okay? But that was premised on a command from God. So God gave him his word. This Bible we all read, so it's basically the whole word of God. And you can see later that even when Eve was being tempted in the garden, she said that we were told not to eat this tree because, this fruit from this tree, because if we do, we shall die. In fact, we even told not to touch it. So you could tell Adam had passed on the word of God.
The word of God to her.
Right? So those are the things that I have found that a man needs to be. So you need to be in God's presence. You need to have fun your work. You need to be the kind of person that cultivates the environment. Are you the type of man that protects what has been charged to you? Most importantly, do you have the word of God in you? So, as a woman, when you're looking for a husband, the problem is you tend to know more of the Bible than the man does. So you're dragging him to church, you're trying to imbue all of these things in him, and that's just not the place. So, as a man, those are the
we can't grow together. I can't make him be the man who now knows the Bible.
Well, of course.
When the master teaches there, and then you are check the master. But anyway,
So the student becoming better.
Yes,
of course, there's a place of influence. I'm not saying that you can't influence the man, okay? But ideally, that was the construct and the design of this man. So if this man is like that, then now we can begin talking about
if he deserves company.
Husband. So if you find a man that is not
Not
in
those
God's
things.
presence, doesn't have his work,
Yeah.
that's his gifting,
Yeah.
can't protect you, and rather, can't
Cultivate.
cultivate you, can't
Yeah.
protect you, and does not have the word of God. It is good for that man.
To be alone. And that's the parting shot.
That is a pattern.
For coming.
Oh,
We could
thank
go
you.
on and on. So I have so many questions, but we'll have you again for sure.
Thank you, Lucy. This was a pleasure to be
It
here.
was.
And to your audience, thank you for just listening to me.
For listening.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode. We'll definitely have him again and he can share more of this wisdom that he has. Thank you for watching and bye.